welcome to another episode of Practice Success. I am one of the hosts, Casey Brothers from Canopy, and I'm here today with Glenn Harper and Julie Smith. Glenn and Julie, will you give a brief introduction of yourselves? And then Glenn, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the business, when you found Julie, the evolution to what you are doing now today.
Go ahead, Julie.
You go for it.
I'm Glenn Harper. I'm a practicing CPA for, 33 years now. I've been in practice and just run a 13-person firm in Columbus, Ohio, and do a couple other side businesses on the side as well. And Julie runs the show here at the firm.
So I'm the head barista. I always make sure everybody has all their coffee and all the flavorings that they want. I think I started with Glenn 10 years ago, and you talked about
don't undercut yourself because I know what you do.
She's the barista, I swear. I do the gutters.
And we kind of came into Glenn had a traditional firm. He had a partner, and Glenn, you can kind of talk about the evolution, and then I can kind of end with where we are now.
Yeah, we were a traditional firm, but we didn't know any better because we never really worked anywhere else. We just kind of started the firm together, and we did that for 25 years, and just knew there was a better way to do things. And we could tell most of our clients, the most successful ones, had some sort of CEO or a practice manager that kind of ran the operations and kind of connected the accountants and the staff to the outside people and did the thing where you can actually run a business. Yeah, and just it kind of ran the show. So yeah. I was on a quest to find she's now called the Julie, but to find somebody to do that. She started off as an assistant, and we just were like, she's like, whoa, we got to do a lot here. And I said, well, I know. That's why I brought you on board. So ultimately, I split from my partner, and we brought some staff and clients and started up Harper and Company, and the rest is history. Went from purely transactional and silos to running an advisory firm with processes, procedures, and culture, and job titles, and hired for the position versus just putting a warm body in. Still kept doing accounting and tax work and do those things, but we changed the focus of the firm to run it more like a business and create a good relationship value for the client.
And then got to the point where now also one of your side projects is Empower CPAs, where you are taking the principles that you have executed on within your own firm to then advise other firms as to how to be more operationally efficient.
Absolutely. And that's where I come in. And so,
right.
I have a little bit of, I have an MBA, not CPA, so I have the wrong letters behind my name for this industry.
Very complicated.
And so, I have that corporate background that's very ingrained in me in regards to the processes and systems and how we get to where we need to be. And so to be able to kind of take that and put it into a small business and not have to go to a board of directors 14 times to change something was really, really interesting to me. The first time I wanted to do something, I came with a PowerPoint and the steps and the agenda. And he's like, we don't have to do any of that here, But it still, I think, was really good for how we went through this process and this change. It was very deliberate. It was very, how do we do it strategically? We weren't just throwing something on the wall and hoping it stuck. And I think who would have thought that this would have been my passion 10 years ago? You would have told me 20 years ago, this is what I would be doing and I would be passionate about it. I would have laughed at you. But out of all of that came this passion to just go into firms and watch them succeed. And how can I help them do that?
Yeah.
And so that's where Empower CPA started. And then it's been fun. We go into firms and, we've met so many people along the way in different partnerships and different, items where then we can take them back to our firm to make it even better, right? Because that's all we're striving to do is just be better day to day. And from that came our podcast. It was right during COVID. And I was like, I feel like we need a sense of community. Entrepreneurs are so lonely out here, right? It's really hard for people to relate, especially in that time. And so we started this podcast, Empowering Entrepreneurs, for our clients. And I think after 2 episodes, we had a long list of people who wanted to be on it that weren't clients, ironically. So we pivoted and shifted. And I think we're in our 3rd year of doing 2 podcasts per month with just entrepreneurs and their journey and everybody being able to learn from them. And, being able, if we can create a shortcut for anybody, that's what we want to do.
Accountants historically are such a, we'll call it an abused industry because we just want to help and we don't know how to bill for that. Nobody knows what we do behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Nobody cares really, because that's what you do when you're an
They just want to
accountant.
make sure that at the end of the day they're getting paid and they can pay their people and they're achieving their dreams, but they don't know, to your point. Yeah.
They're worried about taking care of the client first.
Yeah.
And if you don't take care of yourself and your team, you really can't service the client to the best
Yeah.
of your ability. So that's what the transition is all about.
Yeah, I love it. I think, to your point, so accounting has been around since the dawn of time. We always have to balance books. Profitability is a thing that's not going anywhere. But one thing that you said just made me think, like, the crux of the American dream that I think is still very much alive today is the idea of I can become an entrepreneur at any time. Now, there's no barrier to entry, right? Like anybody can be a small business owner based on whatever it is that they're wanting to do, whatever idea, whatever skill set they have available. But it's not uncommon that entrepreneurs are not super financially literate. And I think the data today is even showing how financial literacy within adults in general is just declining. And so there was always going to be a need, not just for accounting services, but maybe even more so for all of these advisory aspects that we're talking about. So let's jump back. Let's jump back just a little bit to accounting firms, because you talked about how you have currently still your own firm. How and when did you see that, okay, the model that I've built here is one that is unique and that I can now start to take to other firms and advise them on? What was the difference you were seeing between the way you were running your firm and others were running their own firms?
So I think the cool thing is that I knew there had to be a better way. It can't be just come in and grind out and kill yourself 90 hours a week. Like it couldn't be that way. Other entrepreneurs weren't doing, clients weren't doing that. And I knew there was something going, I knew there was a way to do it, just didn't know, but having no experience, didn't go quest for the knowledge, just didn't know, right? But Julie then found some knowledge and, put me in a hammerlock and made me go to the actual
No,
place.
literally, this is a funny story. I signed us up for a conference during tax season because I'm like, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And he's like, tax season, like, yeah. So it's 2 weeks before we're supposed to go. And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to that. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm still going. And he's like, wait, no, you can't do it. Like, no. And I was like, no, if we don't go do this, how do we learn? You're just going to continue to do what you've always done, right? And he was like, fine, I'll go, and like literally 5 minutes into the conference, he's like, we're going to do that. And I'm like, okay, mister, I'm not coming.
No, it was like, can you do this part? Because I think I can do that part, because it's like a two-tiered thing. And she said, got it. I said, all right, let's do it. And that was it. So we tore the whole firm apart, redid everything. I mean, top down. And every system, process, we had to recustomize it all, redid it all. And then after we did that.
How long did it take you to do that?
It's probably about 18 months. I mean, okay. We went to a conference in May, and by the end of the following tax, maybe it was about a year, at the end of the following tax season, it was like any new client, this is the process, this is the system, this is what we're doing.
Okay, so pause there. Yeah. 18 months is a decent amount of time. It is. You said it included a tax season, right? If you started end of May through to the end of the other tax season.
Now, I should say we rebuilt an entire CRM program. We got new employees because not everybody was fitting the mold of where we were going and what we were doing. And if I can give one piece of advice, it's okay if where you're going doesn't mean that everybody wants to come with. I'll sit and listen to you. I'll talk to you. It's okay. Like it doesn't, it's not don't feel so guilty. And him and I kind of had some struggles in regards to that as we went through that, but it's okay if that doesn't happen. And so, I mean, when I tell you, we rebuilt our systems and our process, we had 0 processes starting, and we have one person that we started with 10 years ago that's still with us. If that gives you any indication of just, we're different now, right? Yeah. And I think that's okay. Lean into it, not away from it.
So again, you probably didn't know it was going to be 18 months when you started that process. But what was the dream? What made you feel like I need to do this? It's going to be worth it, or what was the pain that was so heavy? It could have been
It's
one
an
of the
easy one.
other. Okay.
It was it was the absolute belief that I see other bigger firms doing it. Why not us?
Mm,
Why can't we do it? And just going through just doing the same thing year after year after year,
yeah.
and just no appreciation from clients, the staff, just people. Just it was just like it's got to be better than this.
Yeah.
This has been doing this for 25 years. There has got to be a change. And so the drive for, like, there has to be, where the quest was there. And then once we made that commitment, it didn't matter how long it was take, because I knew where we were going was going to be way better than where we were.
And I think for me, I'm different, right? And so when I'm being in a room full of people that were all striving for the same thing, I literally said to him that same time when he was like, "Do you got this? I got this." I was like, "We're going to do it better than anyone in this room." And so the ability to be able to have that control over your destination, your drive, I think is huge, because if you put your mind to it, you can do it. So we both had this just huge commitment of like, we're going to be one of the best firms out there doing what we're doing. How do we do that? Everyone's got to
Yeah.
be best. We have to have the best of everything.
Mhm.
And I mean, we both committed to it. I mean,
And just as we went out and spoke with other firms and conventions and stuff and seminars and stuff, we took a lot of things from different people, and we kind of took the best of everything and kind of made it our own. And that takes some time, and we've retooled a few things
all the
quite
time.
often. But that's all like, okay, this worked then, but this is 3 years later. This we got to tweak this because things have moved a little different direction. And
Yeah.
so it's an ongoing process, and that's the thing. If you're not working on your business, you're going to fall behind again. So
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
the goal.
The difference between working on versus working in. And so in that regard, you have touched on two things. And so I want to make sure to double down on both of those, but also see if you have any others to add to the list. But it sounds like at least you're like, okay, we have to have, I mean, terminology is ICP, an ideal client profile. We have to have identified who we're going to work for, and therefore who we are not going to work for, and saying no. And I know that that's a pretty big topic right now in the industry. It's, to your point, Glenn, it's hard to say no to these people that you feel like you're. I mean, it's funny. You in the industry we use the word service, but also, like, take that out of the billing context. You're serving, right? That there's like an emotional attachment there a bit. And so making that jump to saying, it's okay, I'm not going to hurt people's feelings, like you said, Julie. This is something I need to do for me and my business. That is one that you've mentioned already in terms of, again, growing, progressing, becoming the best firm. Another one you briefly touched on was just by you saying you overhauled your CRM. So tech, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ensuring that you have the tech that works for you, doesn't hinder you, the right combination. And well, I guess the third you've already mentioned too is processes, ensuring that you have things established. Do you want to dive into any of these some more, or are there more on the list that you would
Well, I
say?
think when you do, technology is huge, and that's one
Yeah.
of the things that we really dove into is we had all this technology on the table, but no one was really using it. And
Mm,
I can like proudly say today that the technology that we use, I can probably use better than any consultant that's employed by that firm, because it was like, how do you create efficiency?
yeah.
These should all be creating something that eliminate a step or something. Like, why would we be doing this twice, or why is this person doing it but then this person's going back and redoing it? And so really diving into what those efficiencies could create. And I still say today, like, I am so open-minded about technology and what we bring into the firm, but I'm very upfront, like, it has to create efficiency. It
Mm-hmm.
has to eliminate at least a second. If it's a second per our day, per everybody's day, then I've done my job, right? And I've evaluated it. So I think that is really important, because I think everybody says, well, we have all this, I spend so much on technology, but are you really using it? And
Yeah.
being curious, like, and it's okay to bring in an outside person to say, like, how do we better use this? How can we utilize this to, eliminate step 1, 2, and 3, where our staff just starts at step 4? How do we automate? Or, whatever does that look like for your firm? But don't be afraid to take that first step towards that, because I think people are scared.
Well, I think part of it too is that as a firm, you're not sure what you're billing for, what your services are, who's doing what, and what do you want to do for a client. How can you set up your CRM software to track those things and to assign the tasks and projects to do that if you don't even know what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
So when we said we retooled, we went back and said, okay, what is it that we're trying to do for each client, and assign a project and task to that so we can break it down to the smallest piece. And then we can assign those tasks and projects across the board and leverage that technology to make it so they're just clicking off tasks.
Can I tell a funny quick story? Because I think it's really important that like we are where we are today and it looks really glorious, right? Like from the outside looking in. But it wasn't without a ton of missteps, falling on our face, one of us picking each other up. So we were redoing this whole CRM system, and I had hired someone to come in and kind of help retool that. And I kept asking him, do you want to be a part of this? Like, these are really big conversations. I think you should be a part of this. And he's like, no, Julie.
You got it.
No. And I'm like, okay, but I think, like, we think a lot differently in regards to input and output. And I mean, I asked no short of 20 times. So I'm like, 20 hours into this straight 1 week trying to, get this off the ground. And I go in and I'm showing him and he goes, this is not at all what I had in mind. And if I would have been smarter, I probably would have walked out right then. But I was like, no, okay. So we literally started all over again.
The
Shut
output
up.
that I was looking for,
Yes.
that I thought, we apparently have a communication problem. I thought this was going to be, was not what it was going to drive, so we had to go back and retool it. Well, let's be honest, Julie did it, and it was a very humbling experience. And from that moment on, when I'm asked to participate, I participate and make sure that I give the input of what I'm looking for or what the firm needs. Because again, she looks at different things, I look at different things. There's nobody's right or wrong. It's just how do you get the right systems to give you what you're looking for,
Yes.
to do the things you want to
And
do.
even today, like our dashboards look differently on
Totally
what
different.
we are managing inside of the firm or what KPIs we're looking at. I look at them daily, weekly, monthly, you know what I mean? And so I think that understanding too is so important of like putting pen to paper. And like you talked about the ideal client, like this was Glenn and I getting in a room and being like, what is our vision? What is our mission? What is our core values? And what is the ideal client we're going to serve? Yeah. So then we could go communicate that back to our team and stick to it because they had to hold us accountable to that as well.
Well, and how do you find your ideal client without the data, right? How can you make these decisions without the data? And you have the ability naturally as an accountant and by the work that you're doing to have the data, but are you storing it in an appropriate way? Are you actually collecting it? I'm doing air quotes because,
It's all in our head.
in your brain. Yeah,
That's
seriously.
Nobody else knows it.
Yeah. And this is not uncommon where people have access but don't know quite how to utilize data. Data analysis is a hard skill. I think accountants are set up more than anyone, aside from someone who might actually go through to be certified and be strictly a data analyst. Accountants have a great base level understanding of just numbers and principles and concepts that do set them up to be dangerous to be a data analyst, but it takes time. Even if you have the skills, the time it takes to analyze data is hard. And it's hard to be like, okay, I can and should slow down to speed up in this regard. Take the time to look at data. Take the time to set up dashboards, triggers, alerts, whatever it might be, to then inform me so I can make these decisions. So I can see, oh, this type of client is a more profitable type of client. This colleague is more efficient in this regard, and being able to then make all those fine-tuned tweaks to your business, not just your clientele, but also internally to help you perform in a better way.
Well, and then you take it a step further and it's like, not can we just be able to see that data now, but all of our team can. So now they're holding themselves to a standard that they know what that is because we've communicated what those expectations, goals are. But now we're just monitoring it. So we're not we're not necessarily the ones who are going in and retooling it. They have it all at their fingertips.
And remember, the hardest part about being an entrepreneur is knowing what you're really selling. What is it
Yes.
that you really are selling to your customer? As accountants, traditionally, we think we're selling financial statements and a tax return. And that is a thing we
An
do, but that is
output.
not. That's an output. That is not what the client wants a relationship. They want
Yes.
to know it's handled. They want to know when they call you, you answer. They want to know that you're thinking about them and you're doing things for them. Now, they don't get to see those things. And if you try to do things hourly, it's really, really hard because they don't like those unsurprising bills. So you have to have a relationship. And the client just has to know we're going to do all these things for X versus we won't do anything for 4 months and it will bill you by the hour for all these things. It just doesn't work that way. So knowing what is your product and your clients are, that's the key. And we do that all the time for our clients that we have. What are they actually selling and help them sell it better? And by running your own firm better as an accountant with the data and knowing what you're really selling, when you go to advise your client from an advisory standpoint, you understand their business and what they're trying to do. You can help them figure out what they're selling and they do better. You're not just, here's what you owe in taxes and here's your balance sheet. You're actually helping them run a more efficient, tax-efficient business, which is what everybody wants. So to your point, entrepreneurs just don't get that kind of help.
Yeah. We've covered so much, and I feel like only this deep. Just scratch the surface of so many great concepts that are potentially rather new to the industry at large due to the fact that accountants are burnt out. And they're, like you said yourself, you felt like there was a better way. And Julie, you came in and helped identify that. Now, maybe as we wrap up, will you give a overview of these different businesses and how the things that you two have now built together?
Well, and it's funny because we missed one, but you were talking about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
So Harper and Company, which primarily serves entrepreneurs, that's our ideal client.
That's the CPA firm.
CPA firm, the advisor, yes. And so from that, we started noticing, because we had the data, we
And
started
that was
noticing
where you had your test kitchen, where you did
our
everything
test
we've
kitchen.
talked about, the
Yeah. And we're still
finding.
testing.
Yes. Okay.
Those poor people, they're the guinea pigs. No. But if you're not, we have to be, evolving and
Yes.
changing. And the summer is the perfect time to be able to do that. But so we have that business. And then from that, because we had the data, we were noticing that we had 3 to 4 clients we were turning away. So we have kind of an intense prospecting process. And they just weren't the ideal client. And we were at the point in our business where if you're not the ideal client, you just kind of don't get through the door. So we did start Pure Tax, which serves the 1040 clientele that don't need the advisory. They don't really want a tax projection.
Yeah.
They're really just looking for a transaction and put in an output.
Really quick, I'm going to pause you right there, because what you have said is that, not explicitly, is that there is enough business out there to provide good profit and revenue and still say no. And in a sense, too, and you might be going there with the next side project that you guys have done together to fuel quote unquote competition.
So let me show you this.
Okay.
If you would be hard pressed to find any accounting CPA firm or just accounting firm that does not have more work than they can handle. That's just they always are too busy. So now once you realize being too busy, being bigger is not better, being better is better. So once you don't want to keep getting bigger and be more busy. You want to be bigger to get the right kind of client. Once you recognize that, that's when you compare it out and you can make these changes like we've been trying to do.
Yeah. And so really then you established another firm to provide just a specific service for a specific type of client. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah. And it came really easy because we have the technology, we have the processes in order to do it. It was just like plugging and playing, right? And so that's where it becomes fun because you've already done the hard work, but it's serving a different ideal client, which has been really fun. So that started in January. And so that's just been another fun factor to work through during tax season.
It's never you don't wait to start. If you wait to get married, to have kids, to buy a house, to start a business, you'll never do it.
Wait.
So just jump in and go do it, and you'll figure out as you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, we
And that's what we're doing. Like, that's the fun part of being an entrepreneur, though, is being able to figure it out as you go and being able to pivot. Like, you don't, no one fails, right? You
Yeah.
just are pivoting consistently.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, go ahead.
But then you also have, and maybe this is where I was trying to lead you to go, but you weren't taking
So,
my bait. So I'll be a little bit more explicit. I apologize. You then also have your business Empower CPAs, where you've taken your learnings again. Like, I think there's this fear that, okay, if I don't take the job, someone else is going to take it. And it's this scarcity mentality. It's I need every client I can get. And you've already said that in different words that you don't. You need the right client.
mhm.
Um, but imagine a world, I know this is going to be crazy, where CPA firms say no and then say, no, but I know another firm that works specifically with your industry. And
That's
I think,
crazy talk. That's
I know,
blasphemy. What are you talking about?
blasphemy.
Towns never talk. No,
Oh.
we dream of that. And I
Yeah.
think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to break down those barriers where, again, I would never speak to another accountant before. They're going to take my business. Now,
Yeah. I don't want
how
to
can I help?
refer.
I asked this when I came into. I was like, so are there some lunch and learns that we can go to
Oh,
learn what everybody else is doing? He's like, we don't talk to those
Yeah.
people.
our mission with the Empower
Now we're like,
CPA
talk to everybody.
was really to try to elevate the industry. And if we could help just one firm, because again, if you surveyed 100 firms, 95 of them are like getting beat down. If
Yeah.
we can just help one firm, that's a good day's work. And if we can help provide that shortcut and help them out, that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Because we're we're trying to help the whole industry, not just about us. It's about the industry itself. And if we can help the industry, then that means they're going to help the clients more. And if they can help the clients more, my passion, and I think Julie's too, is other entrepreneurs. And if we can help other entrepreneurs make it, save enough tax dollars, put their kids through college, go on a vacation, who doesn't want to do that? And all we
Yeah.
got to do is help some other people figure that out. That's where the joy is. So that's the reason.
And I think in Power CPA, the whole thing was like, we went through this whole change, this whole evolution, and it took us this amount of time. But what we learned, if we could cut a firm's time in half of being able to do that, and we can just share our shortcuts of like, yeah, we did try it that way, but this is how that's going to end up because that's just
Hmm.
where we are. And I think, for me, my passion is watching everybody else be able to succeed. And so I
Yeah.
think that's where that passion comes from. It's like changing the industry to watch everybody else succeed. And so providing that shortcut is how Empower CPA
That's how it came to fruition.
got started.
Yeah. I love it. Um, Thank you so much for your time. I think this whole conversation, or I hope at least, that this gives our listeners a lot of hope for the ability to take that leap that, yeah, it might be an 18-month commitment. Maybe it'll be less because people like you have already ironed out some things. Technology has already come a long way just in the last year or two, right? With AI and all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
The future for accounting is not bleak. I think there are lots of opportunities for every firm to look and see how things will only better operationalize their firms, make them more successful, give them more time back. Um, yeah, thank you again, Glenn and Julie.
Well,
Thank
pleasure being on
you.
your show. Hope this was helpful. So fun.